Barnstable Unitarian Universalist where love guides us. If you were wondering, you do get extra mitzvah points for being here today. I extend a special welcome to our guests and encourage you to join us after the service for fellowship and coffee. If you'd like to know more about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, please fill out the guest card that you'll find in the pew rack in front of you and hand it to an usher or to me. Today you are in for a treat. We are going to be talking about pluralism. And pluralism is about diversity. Here we honor the diversity of people's faith, religious traditions, cultures, ethnicities, sexual orientations, gender identities, and every other diversity that there is. Here, we acknowledge that our church and lands rest upon unceded ancestral territory of the Wampanoag people, who have lived and been sustained on Cape Cod for over 12,000 years. Here, we celebrate the participation and presence of people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and gender nonconforming. Here, Black Lives Matter. Here, we lift up the climate crisis in which we find ourselves and promote the values of a sustainable planet. In a spirit of welcome, please rise in body or spirit and greet one another. In the order of service. The office will be closed on Christmas Day and the day after, as well as New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Please see your announcements for those days, just in case you forget them. Our Christmas Eve service is Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, and I hope to see as many of you there as can come. It is a multi-generational service where we'll have 2 Christmas pageants, and a lot of readings and singing. Reverend Bill Clark will be leading the service on December 29th. He is a wonderful preacher. He has come here and filled in for me when I was on sabbatical and is just very much loved. And I encourage you to come and share the end of the year service with him. Thank you. Steve Heaslip, will you light our chalice this morning? Thank you. Victoria Safford wrote, "Now is the moment of magic, when the whole round earth turns again towards the sun. And here's a blessing. The days will be longer and brighter now, even before winter settles in to chill us. Now is the moment of magic when people beaten down and broken, with nothing left but misery and candles and their own clear voices, kindle tiny lights and whisper secret music. And here's a blessing. The dark universe is suddenly illuminated by the lights of the menorah, suddenly ablaze with the lights of the Kanara, and the whole world is glad and loud with winter singing. Now is the moment of magic, when an eastern star beckons the ignorant towards an unknown goal. And here's a blessing. They find nothing in the end but an ordinary baby, born at midnight, born in poverty, and the baby's cry, like bells ringing, make people wonder as they wander through their lives. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join me in the affirmation in unison printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is the sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine, thus to be covenant together. Please join me in the children and youth affirmation. We believe in unity. We believe in community. We believe each of us has the power to make a difference in the world. Our opening hymn is number 226, People Look East, and I'm going to ask James to play the whole thing through once first. I adapted these words from an unknown author. We have come to this place, we who are weary, it is waiting for us and all that we bring. We are here seeking respite from the expectations and demands of the season. We come to this place, we who long for safe haven, enter into the mystery of the holy, the sacred, the loving. We are here with some hesitation, yet also with the longing to know peace in the depths of our being. We come to this place to find resilience within this community, within our own hearts, within the sacred that holds us. We come to be one. I invite anyone who feels called to come down the center aisle in 2 lines, pick up a pebble, bless it with your joy, a sorrow, a gratitude, a prayer, and place it into our community waters of hope and compassion. Please join me in a moment of prayer and reflection. With awe and wonder, we approach the mystery and miracle of life, the joy not yet experienced, but just outside our door. The scary and painful challenges that sometimes keep us from taking in the beauty that surround us. The messiness and complications of living in community that become barriers to the intricate and amazing bundle that connects us in every ever-increasing interdependence. If only we can open the eyes of our hearts and see with clarity our highest values, the preciousness of another, the sacred reflected in all. The flood of love might wash away our fear and anxiety, revealing the amazing gift of breath that we have been given. Spirit of life in all its incarnations, God of love and justice, we bring with us all the joy and sorrow, pain and confusion, all the messiness that is life to this moment, and offer all up to the safe holding and healing of this community. Amen. There are very few places in this world where we are affirmed in who we are, encouraged to be good enough, pronounced inherently worthy, and loved into being. This is a special place, and it needs your support to thrive. The morning offering will now be received. body or spirit and join me in the dedication and offering doxology printed in your order of service.
Of the Trees of the Dancing Goats by Patricia Polacco. This author is also an artist and illustrated her story. And this story is based on her own life and what she went through as a child. At our farm in Michigan, we didn't celebrate the same holidays as most of our neighbors. But we shared their delight and anticipation of them just the same. Such cold the winter brings, my babushka said, as she looked out the front window. She wasn't fooling me. I knew how much she loved the snow. It reminded her of her homeland in Ukraine. My grandfather was from Soviet Georgia, way to the south of Russia. He and babushka spoke Russian and had wonderful accents. They kept their homelands in their hearts, even though they would never be permitted to return. Just then, Mama rolled into the long driveway. Mama drove far every day to teach school. But now she would be off for 2 weeks because of the holiday season. This year, we would have a week together to prepare, and then 8 days of Hanukkah festivities. The next day, I polished our menorah while I watched my grandmother make the candles that we would put in it. Grandpa prepared for our Festival of Lights as well. He carved small toys out of wood. My brother and I couldn't help but sneak into his workroom to take a peek. Look, a dancing goat, my brother exclaimed as he held one up. I like this one, I said, cradling a little dog in my palm. Grandpa had painted the animals with color. We marveled at how magical they all were. My brother asked, do you think he made enough for all 8 days of Hanukkah? You know he has, I whispered. My mother then asked me to go to our nearest neighbors, the Kremls, for some cornmeal. They were farmers like us, and at harvest time, the Kremls always helped Grandpa. All the neighbors helped each other that way. Friendship means something, Grandpa always said, especially for those who till the soil. I practically lived at the Kreml's house because Sherry Kreml was my very best friend. We especially loved the holiday season when I'd watch her family decorate her Christmas tree and she'd watch my family light our menorah. I knew as we were bustling in anticipation of the Festival of Lights at our house, the Kremls would be preparing for the Festival of Christmas at theirs. I ran home and burst into our house with the news about Sherry and her family. Mama seemed very worried. "Did you go inside their house, Tricia?" she asked me. "Well, sure," I answered. "Uh-oh," my brother said. They all looked at each other. "When your grandfather was in town today," Babushka said very slowly, "the doctor told him that many families around here have come down with scarlet fever. The Kremls must have it." "Am I going to get it, Mama?" I asked. "Oh, it's very contagious," she answered. "We will know in a few days." So for the next few days, my family watched me carefully. As the days passed, it was evident that I was not going to get sick. But more and more reports came to us of neighbors falling ill. It was an epidemic. We were all worried about our friends, but Babushka was determined that our Festival of Lights would go on as planned. On the afternoon before Hanukkah, she bustled around her kitchen, and we helped her make latkes. Mama and Babushka dressed down 2 chickens for roasting and put them in the oven. Just as the aroma of the wonderful feast met our nostrils, the sun set, and it was time to light the menorah. Grandpa recited the blessings and lit the shamas, the candle used to light all the others. Babushka put the first candle in the menorah and lit it with the shamas. Then Mama told the story, as she did every year, of our people long ago. "Tonight we are celebrating miracles," she started. "The miracle that a very small band of Jewish farmers turned soldiers could defeat a huge Syrian army." "Were they really farmers before they were soldiers?" Richard asked. "Simple farmers," Grandpa answered, "just like us." "They were fighting so they could worship in their own way," my mother added. "Then there was a miracle of the light," my grandfather said with a twinkle in his eye. "One little tiny drop of oil burned in the temple for 8 days. "Such a miracle," my babushka exclaimed. "Miracles can happen today," Grandpa said quietly. After dinner, Grandpa handed us the first of our beautifully wrapped presents. He looked troubled, though. "You know, our neighbors are having such a hard time, and this should be a time of gladness for them. If only we could do something to make their holiday special." Babushka thought for a while. "They always bring a tree into their house. Only in America does a tree grow right out of the living room floor." She rocked with laughter. "Carly, we should cut down trees and take them to their houses," Grandpa announced. Babushka smiled in agreement. "I'll cut them tonight. And we can take them food," Babushka said as she scurried into the kitchen. "Mama and I can decorate the trees," I shouted excitedly. "But this is not our custom. We have nothing to decorate the trees with," my grandmother said. "What about carvings?" my mother said softly. They looked at me. "What do you think? They have no way of making their children happy this year." At first, I was a little disappointed, but then as I thought about it, I knew it was the right thing to do. Our neighbors needed cheering, and we were just about the only ones who didn't have the fever. Grandpa and Richard brought the cut trees into our living room. They nailed boards onto the bottom of each one so they could stand up. They were very small trees. Grandpa had only taken the tops off the evergreens, but they were beautiful, and they were all standing in the living room like a little forest. Grandpa started hanging some of the wooden animals on the branches of the tree. "A dancing goat," my babushka remarked as she looked closely at one of them. "We shall call these the trees of the dancing goats." We made sure to hang a dancing goat on each and every tree. As we decorated the trees, we sang and laughed. We all worked into the night. We packed the food and baskets, and in each one, Babushka put one of her homemade Hanukkah candles. So they will have the light of God in their hearts, and so that God will protect them and make them well again, she murmured. We loaded Grandpa's old Ford with the trees and the food baskets and sent Babushka and Grandpa into the early light of dawn with their Christmas cheer. Just like Santa, my brother said. Mr. and Mrs. Santa, I added. When they returned later that morning, Babushka and Grandpa told of how they entered the home of each neighbor, set up a tree in their living room, put the basket of food on the table, and then put a candle in a holder for them to light later. Mama was a little worried that they had been exposed to the fever, but Babushka said, "In so much worse I have been, you shouldn't know from. God will protect. God will protect. I know this." A week later, the 8 days of Hanukkah had come and gone, and we sat to have our little feast. There was a knock at the door. It was the Krimmels. They were quite well now. "We have something for you," Sherry announced, holding a basket. Her mother and father had tears in their eyes as they hugged my grandparents and my mother. "Look at what my dad made for you," Sherry said. She pulled out a menorah that Mr. Kreml had carved out of wood. On it, he had mounted some of the animals that we had given to them. "How beautiful," my babushka said as she placed it on our table. We invited the Kreml family to sit and share our feast. By the time our menorah had been lit for an hour or so, and when we lit the candles in the new menorah, we noticed something wondrous. Look, our old candles are exactly as tall as the new ones. The old ones didn't even look burnt down, Mama said softly. "Another miracle," Grandpa said. "A miracle indeed," my babushka said, giving me a big hug. Then we all got up and danced and laughed together in the flickering candlelight. Our neighbors all recovered from that terrible fever, and we were left with a cherished memory of that Christmas when Santa really did come. And my family, too, has never forgotten that incredible winter of the fever, the miracle of our true friendship, and the trees of the dancing goats.
I invite those of you who are going to the Children and Youth Center to do so now. The rest of us are going to stand and sing hymn number 225, O Come, Emmanuel.
Comfort to our
So I think that Don's story was a better reading for the sermon than mine, so I'm just going to go on with the sermon. This week, 3 religious winter holidays merge. Yule, or the winter solstice, Hanukkah, or the festival of lights, and Christmas. As a religious tradition that values pluralism, it is important that we lift up these celebrations and learn what we can from their long spiritual traditions. As it says in our new covenant, we celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. The first Parliament of World Religions was held in Chicago in 1893 as part of the World's Fair. Representatives from Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Zoroastrianism came from around the world to join Protestants, Catholics, Jews, Unitarians, and Universalists to share their religious belief and exchange ideas. The Parliament left our nation dazed with the richness of Eastern spirituality and philosophical thought. 100 years later, as the Parliament Centennial, also held in Chicago, the richness so foreign in 1893 was now living in Chicago. The religious and cultural diversity of Chicago is no longer limited to big cities. This is a Main Street phenomenon. There are Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs in Salt Lake City, in Toledo, Ohio, and in Jacksonville, Mississippi. Mosques and gurdwaras and temples are very much a part of the architectural landscape in places like Denver, Mobile, Tampa, and Pittsburgh. This new religious and cultural diversity has profound implications for every aspect of American life. The we in We the People has become increasingly complex, not only religiously, but racially, ethnically, and culturally. Encounters between people of very different cultural and religious traditions take place in the proximity of our own towns and neighborhoods, including our own Barnstable County. How we as a nation begin to encounter and engage with one another in shaping a positive and affirming pluralism and multiculturalism is one of the most important questions we face today. Pluralism, multiculturalism, diversity are other problems that are not problems that threaten the consensus of a religious and moral mainstream, but are extraordinary spiritual and social realities. They are a fact and fabric of American society and cannot be ignored nor interpreted out of our field of vision. If Unitarian Universalism is to remain a vital and relevant religious movement, a religion for today, as former UUA President Peter Morales liked to say, we must learn to respond to, engage with, reflect, and embody the larger multicultural and pluralistic reality that we are a part of. And if anything, we as a religious movement are well equipped, theologically at least, to face up to this task. In the 19th century, our Unitarian ancestors said yes to Amos's question, can two walk together whether they be agreed or not? It was this principle of religious tolerance that gave birth to a theology of pluralism that guides our religious living today. One way to grasp Unitarian Universalism's understanding of religious pluralism is the late Reverend Forrest Church's metaphor of the cathedral of the world. Reverend Church explained that our Unitarian heritage points to the existence of one light, one mystery, one interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. But that single light shines through countless windows, each of which reveals an important portion, but only a portion of that light. Our Universalist heritage affirms the worth and dignity of those different windows and urges us to open our minds and hearts to the light and truth that each window contains. One light, Unitarianism, shining through many worthy windows, Universalism. Now, one of the challenges of religious pluralism is not to reduce the various religious traditions down to their lowest common denominator. We have often been caught up in a sentiment that says, at their core, all religions are the same. Yes, most religious traditions have some version of the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And yet, when we explore the religions of the world in depth, there are some very real differences between them. Stephen Prothero, a professor of religion at Boston University and author of God is Not One, the 8 rival religions that run the world and why their differences matter, wrote, God is not one. While it is understandable that religious liberals and other interfaith types cannot help be drawn to such vision and such hope, especially in the face of religious bigotry and bloodshed, it is not based on reality. While we need idealism, we need realism even more. We need to understand religious people as they are, not just at their best, but also at their worst. We need to look not only at the awe-inspiring architecture and gentle mystics, but also their bigots and suicide bombers. Another challenge of religious pluralism is our susceptibility, however well-intentioned, to engage in mix and match spirituality or spiritual tourism. This is religion as a lifestyle option. Instead of seeing religions as a whole, they are regarded as composite structures, pieces of which can be broken off and grafted onto other stock in order to improve the spiritual yield. We take the part of religion which fits our lifestyle and way of thinking, and then discard the rest. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to do more than be spiritual tourists. We are called to participate, to engage with, to witness the holy as seen by the other. The main path to pluralism is dialogue, and the first step in dialogue is religious literacy. We need to know something about the basic beliefs and practices of the religions around us. We need to have some awareness of how others' religion wrestles with the big questions of existence. Genuine dialogue across religious boundaries must recognize the existence of these boundaries and the fundamental differences and commonalities that exist. Last night, Pagans and other earth-centered spiritualists around the world celebrated Yule, the ancient name for the winter solstice. It is the marking of the longest night and shortest day of the year, a time when our ancestors saw the sun as weak and feared the winter might last forever. As Susan Cooper writes, so the shortest day came, and the year died. And everywhere down the centuries of the snow-white world came people dancing and singing to drive the dark away. They lighted candles in winter trees. They hung their homes with evergreens. They burned beseeching fires all night long to keep the year alive. When the new day sunshine blazed awake, they shouted, reveling. Through all, across the centuries, you can hear them echoing behind us. Listen. All the long echoes sing the same delight, this shortest day and longest night. As promise awakens in the sleeping land, they carol, give thanks, and dearly love their friends, and hope for peace. And so do we here, this year and every year. The story of the winter solstice is connected to the story of Christmas. It is its frame. It is its foundation. Out of the darkness, out of the hardest time, comes one pure of heart, a light, a star shining brightly, heralding the hopes of a new time, proclaiming reformation inherent in the universe, worth inherent in humanity. For many Christians, it is not just the birth of one child they are revering. It is the hope brought into being, the justice promised, the life of love and purpose that is honored and respected, that is met with awe and wonder. Joy to the world, we are not damned to hell, damned to eternity of suffering and misery. This year, Hanukkah and Christmas are on the same day. But Hanukkah is not the Jewish Christmas. It is not about a Savior born, but it is about hope. It is a story of a small band of men fighting for their freedom, the freedom to believe as they were called, the freedom to live their culture, practice their rituals, the freedom to live without assimilation. The Maccabees, as they became known, were a small band of resistors to the oppression and persecution of the Greeks. They were willing to die for their right to self-determination, but they did not go quietly. They fought the armies and recaptured the Temple Mount that had been taken over and sullied by pig sacrifice and cult worship. The Maccabees cleansed and purified the temple and then rededicated it to the worship of Yahweh, the God of the Jews. The embellishment, which most of us think is all Hanukkah, but the embellishment added to the story of resistance and survival is the story of the menorah light. The Talmud reads that when the temple was reclaimed, they found only a single jar of oil, still intact, with the seal of the Jewish high priest. The oil was only enough for one day, but it miraculously lasted 8. For many Jews, Hanukkah is a time of reverence for the story of survival. It is a time to honor and respect those who fought to live their faith fully and freely. It is a time they experience awe for the miracles of God, the miracles represented in a light that does not go out, the flame of faith that still burns, the people who, after thousands of years of persecution and genocide, still maintain their identity within this multicultural society. As Unitarian Universalist minister, the Reverend Lynn Unger wrote, "Come down from the hills, declare the fighting done, be bold. Declare victory, even when the temple is wrecked and the tyrants have not retreated, only coiled back like a snake prepared to strike again. Come down. Try to remember a life gentled by daily acts of domestic faith. The pot set to boil, the bed made up, the table set in calm expectation that when the sun sets, we will still be here. Come down and settle. Unlearn the years of hiding, light fires that can be seen for miles, that dance and spark and warm the frozen marrow. Set lamps in the window. Declare your presence, your loyalties, the truth for which you do not expect to have to die. It would take a miracle, you say, to carve such a solid life out of the shell of fear. I say, you are the stuff from which miracles are made." While light and hope and even liberation are common themes in these celebrations, we honor the real differences, the deeper meaning, the unique rituals. They are not asking us to believe the same way or to take pieces and leave the rest. These different holidays remind us of the many stories, customs, narratives, and mystery that hold and sustain us during this time. Stories of families, friend, and community, customs and traditions passed down through generations, songs and memories, struggles and joy. As we deepen our understanding of others, who we are, what we believe, our hopes and dreams become more real, more secure, and of greater comfort than before. Our closing hymn is number 236, O Thou Joyful Day. Please rise and by your spirit and join me.